Hello everybody, this is Jacob, just me for now. We're going to be doing a very quick special episode just so I can tell you all a little bit how to level up all of your forms and summons and all that exciting stuff. If you aren't playing along or don't care about how this kind of stuff happens, you can comfortably skip this episode and move right on along to the next one. But anyway, the first place we're heading back to is the Cave of Wonders on Agrabah. This is where you're going to spend a lot of time to cheat a bunch of different leveling stuff in this game, because in this room we have one of the members of the Mushroom 13. And this guy is the perfect punching bag, because his entire challenge is built around regenerating his health, which makes him perfect for maxing out Valor form, which, if you'll recall, gains experience per number of hits dealt. So you'll go into Valor form right here and start performing air combos on him. You want to try and avoid performing your finishers, I think, because they make Sora land kind of awkwardly, and it cuts into the total amount of time you have here if you're really trying to min-max this whole thing. So anyway, you just keep on wailing on him until eventually you're gonna get a level pop after you land enough hits. You're gonna have to be in here for a while as you start leveling up Valor form more, and it requires more and more points of experience per upgrade. So yeah. And then as soon as you're starting to get low on your form, you run back outside and touch that save point to warp back out to the overworld map. Because if you go back out to the overworld map while you're still in a form, when you return to the world, you will have your form maxed back out, as you see right there. So yeah, I'm not obviously going to do it right here on camera, but you can max out Valor very easily by just going in and out of the room over and over again. Now we're going to look at how to level up Limit form. And as you can see here, Limit form is leveled by performing the finishing move on each of the limit breaks that you can perform while you're in Limit form. Basically, each of the limit breaks is based on one of Sora's special moves from Kingdom Hearts 1. There's one move in particular we want to use here. So basically, we're going to go over here and activate the mushroom, and we're going to head back over towards the door. I'll explain why that's important in a second. Go on into Limit form, and you're just basically going to want to spam Sonic Rave, which is basically Sonic Blade from the first game. So you'll activate it once and then mash triangle to make sure that you complete the full combo, and that is important. You have to perform the finisher, not simply activate it. So remember to mash triangle and actually perform the move all the way to completion. After you perform 2 limit breaks, you will be out of magic, so you'll want to run back outside, quickly hit triangle on the save point to get all your MP back, run back in, perform 2 more limits, run back out, refill all your magic by pressing triangle on the save point, run back in. Just try and do all of this as fast as possible while your form is draining. Now, to be clear, it's important to do that next to the door, because if you actually strike enemies with your limit breaks, it drains your form gauge much quicker than if you're whiffing and hitting the air. You still get points from it, obviously, but you'll be able to perform significantly fewer limits because your gauge will drain significantly faster if you're actually hitting him. So it's important to go back over to the door and perform the moves there, as I showed just there at the end. Anyway, once you're out of form, again, go back out to the overworld map, and you'll max out your drive gauge again. And those are the only 2 limits we can level here, but we can also max out our summons here. Summons take a while to max out, but they're very easy to max out on the bright side. So all of the summons level the same. So if you level just one of them, you're leveling all of them. And the way that they level is you gain 1 point of experience every time that you drain one of these summon bars, which is the same as the drive bars. The drive gauge down there, as you can see, is now relabeled to summon. So basically, every single time that gauge drains, you know, from the 3 gauge that it's on now to the 2 gauge, we get 1 point of experience. But when we land hits on enemies, the gauge refills ever so slightly, which means if you just start spamming fire while you're close to the top of one of your gauges, it'll refill to the next gauge, allowing you to drain it again over and over and over again, as you're seeing here. Just continuing to spam fire to go up into gauge 3, back down into gauge 2, over and over and over again. Takes a long time to do, but if you activate Stitch, the reason it's important to use him is because he will refill your MP bar every time that you run out. So if you activate Stitch and just keep using fire next to him when you're at the top of a gauge to refill it enough to go over into the next one, you'll level it up very quickly. Anyway, now we're over in Halloween Town to do Master Form real quickly. This is probably the easiest and quickest of the bunch to level up, especially initially. The amounts that you have to get later can be a little bit egregious, but it's a pretty simple method to actually execute. So you just want to go ahead and get enemies to spawn in here and lure them back over to the carousel, or the merry-go-round, or whatever you want to call it. Because when you activate the merry-go-round and it sucks enemies in, on impact, it causes the little golden drive orbs to appear, and those are the things that let Master Form level up. And as you can see there, you level this one up once, almost instantaneously, just upon doing this once. So yeah, rinse and repeat, just keep reloading this room and redoing this process over and over again. The only thing is that only a couple of enemies spawn in here, which means that this room can only give you so many experience points per attempt. So once you've leveled up your gauge a little bit, if you're feeling ballsy, you can go and fight some enemies in other parts of the map that also draw up some of the orbs, just to get a few more things before you actually have to replenish your gauge. But anyway, that's how you do Master. You just keep going back out to the overworld and coming back in and doing that. But anyway, we're back over here to do Wisdom now, which I believe I mentioned this was the best place to do this when I was here with Joey previously. If you want to really truly min-max this thing, the Magnet and Thunder combo is always a good way to go. You might want to go ahead and do a little bit of damage to the enemies first before you go into it. Again, just a min-max, because you get points per heartless kill, not by hits, dealt or whatever else. So if you can get them close to death before you actually go into the form, that's just going to save you some time. All the respecking you saw me doing there was just changing my my magic loadouts so that I could, I had Thunder and Magnet shortcutted. But you can also, if you want to, go ahead and throw some ethers on so you can refill your magic more quickly, but honestly, you probably shouldn't need to. You can, if you want to, go ahead and throw some ethers in there, but it's probably better to just save the ethers for more important occasions. Now, ideally, if you're paying attention, you'll notice before your gauge drains and you will run back out of the map and go through the door back to Disney Castle. If you go through the door to Disney Castle before your drive gauge empties, that counts as leaving the world and your gauge will be refilled back to 5, just like if you went out to the overworld map. I didn't notice here, and unfortunately I reverted before I meant to, but that's okay, because if you accidentally don't get out to the overworld in time, or if you go into anti-form so your gauge is drained, don't waste any of those drive recovery items. That's a waste of your time. Just fly over to Olympus Coliseum, enter literally any tournament, and immediately quit out, and all of your stats will be magically refilled, including your drive gauge. So if at any point you fail to get to a save point in time to leave the world before you revert, or if you go into anti-form on accident, you can just come back here to max out your drive gauge and continue your grinding. Because over the course of doing this, you will get anti-form a couple of times. It's pretty much a statistical inevitability with the total number of times that you'll have to go into each of these forms. But yeah, after just a few minutes, we've got dodge roll, quick run, and aerial dive or drive or dodge or whatever. I always forget the name of it, even though it was on screen just a second ago. Whatever, you have a double jump. That's all that matters. So yeah, if you spend a couple of hours right now, you can go ahead and get all of those things pretty much dealt with. You do want to do this now as opposed to later, because in just a couple of hours of game time, basically several of these rooms are going to become inaccessible to you for a couple of hours. They'll be back pretty soon. Once you beat the second visits of the worlds, all these rooms will be available again. But if you beat Hollow Bastion, the Hollow Bastion sequence that we are on right now in the playthrough, before you do this, Halloween Town and Agrabah both become inaccessible to you, as does Olympus Coliseum, which makes grinding all of these out significantly more difficult. So if you want to get a head start and have all of your movement abilities, you may want to pause right here in your playthrough before you continue with all of the Hollow Bastion events and run around and level all of these things up. Anyway, next episode, we're back to our regularly scheduled programming of playing Kingdom Hearts 2, making bad jokes, and complaining a lot.